Hi guys, I am backstage today at Her Majesty's Theatre in London's West End, and the Phantom of the Opera is here, not inside your mind, is right here next to me. Ben Lewis, hello,
Hi,
how's it going?
Yeah, I'm good, nice to see you.
You've been the Phantom for about 3 weeks now?
Yeah,
How's it been going?
We're in week 3 and it's been going well. It's a pretty busy start to the year. As with any cast change, I think, you kind of have to hit the ground running. So the first week it was a 9-show week effectively for us, because we did a dress rehearsal on our opening night, prior to opening night, which was a Monday, and then you have the full 8-show week. So that was sort of busy, and we've had various other commitments on since then through last week. So it's been good. We're just slowly finding our rhythm, and the audiences have been terrific. So yeah,
it's been a pretty big cast change for Phantom, hasn't it? Quite a few people.
I think so. I think we've had, is it 12 or 13 or maybe even 14? I think obviously it varies all the time. I think the major principals all changed this time. Certainly in terms of Phantom, Christine and Raoul were all new. Thankfully, Jiri and Carlotta and Piangi, who were all wonderful, they were all staying, which just sort of made the transition for us a lot easier. But I think the big thing is they often don't do a Christine and a Christine alternate at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that obviously comes with its, challenges in terms of trying to rehearse and get both those girls up and ready to go from day one. But both the girls, Amy and Kelly, are both amazing, and they've done a terrific job, and they're up and firing already. So yeah.
Great. So born in London, grew up in Australia, and now kind of somewhere in the middle.
You got it.
Kind of divide your time.
That's pretty good. Not bad. Yeah. So you're born in London, and a British and an Australian parent, and I did my primary school years in Australia, but then I actually moved back, and I did most of my secondary schooling here.
But you kept the accent.
Yeah, I mean it's something that I think my Australian accent this time around, I've been here 5 years, I think it's gotten worse. The longer I've been, I think I'm holding on to it like a badge of honour or something. Yeah. But I lived in Hertfordshire for about 6.5, 7 years, so I've got lots of really close friends from my secondary school time, and then back to Oz and finished school, did university and drama school, and worked for nearly 10 years before the trip back out this time. And my wife Mel and I have been out here for 5 years or so this time around. So yeah.
So you're in town, Priscilla, Spamalot, to name a few of the ones you did in Australia, and then over here you did Candide, Forbidden Broadway, which I saw you in a couple of years ago, and most recently Annie Get Your Gun, up at Sheffield Crucible.
Which again was with two of those. Forbidden Broadway and Annie Get Your Gun were both with Anna Jane Casey.
Yeah,
who's become,
she's hilarious, isn't she?
She's brilliant, and she's become a really good friend, and it's been awesome to work with her. These places that you've mentioned where I've worked, it was a real goal of mine when I first came here to. I really wanted to work with some of these, amazing companies that I'd heard about in Australia. Places like the Chocolate Factory and places like Sheffield. My wife's been lucky enough to work down at Chichester, and so really in the short term, when we first got here, that was the goal. We didn't know anybody here, so there was. We thought, both my wife and I thought that it was important to try and get as much visibility as we could for casting directors and and to meet people. And the best way to do that is to try and do as many, maybe shorter jobs as possible, but in some of these beautiful, amazing, high-profile venues. So, the Chocolate Factory Candide was one of the best sort of performance experiences of my life, I think. Just singing through that Bernstein score every night was an amazing thing. And then Forbidden Broadway was just it was a 3-month job that turned into a nearly 7 months, because we transferred into town, and that was just a crazy ride, and with great people, and then Sheffield, which was great as well. So
most famously probably known for Love Never Dies, though.
Sure.
Which you did in Australia with the beautiful Anna O'Byrne.
Yeah.
Who's been over here. Who played Christine? I think I interviewed her when she did Christine.
She did Christine. She's out, but she's back in Australia doing My Fair Lady at the moment. Yeah, she did.
And then she's coming back for Woman in White.
That's right. Yeah,
end of this year.
Yeah.
What have been some of your highlights, career highlights? After talking about all that.
Well, I think you've named a lot of them. I think you know, if you talk about the most fun I've ever had on stage, then I'd put Spamalot probably at the top of that list. We were lucky enough to have Mike Nichols direct us. We had an amazing experience where we were in a rehearsal room in Melbourne. He watched us via satellite on a live feed from Los Angeles and gave us live notes after the. It was amazing. And I think he gave me the best note that I've ever been given as an actor, which was it was directed at the Four Knights. He said, "Now, you boys, the worse you dance, the more charming you are."
Yeah.
And I was like, God, if every choreographer could give me that note, I'd be a happy man. So yeah, I think Spamalot, Priscilla, I was part of the original company of that. So part of the creation of that show, which has since been all around the world and is about to do a 10th anniversary season back in Australia again. That was an incredible experience. But then, like you say, Love Never Dies was such a unique thing. We were immensely honoured to be given the opportunity to put our own stamp on it down in Australia, and Andrew Lloyd Webber was so accommodating, and he came down and spent some amazing time with us, and it ended up being a project that we were all immensely proud of. So
it's one of my favourite shows.
I think the score of that show is quite amazing, and some of the best music, full stop, that I've ever had. You know, had the privilege to sing in my life, and it was a huge challenge. So it was a big sing for particularly for myself and Anna, and but it was amazing. I'm really proud of both my work and the work of all of our company in Australia. We did an awesome job with it. Yeah.
So you're here now doing Phantom.
Yeah.
For anyone, I don't think there's anyone left in the world that hasn't seen it.
Probably not.
In the last 31 years now it's been on. What's it all about? What's the premise of it?
Look, I think at the heart of it, it's a love story. The Phantom is a young man who has been scarred, you know, and has lived his life in isolation. His mother left him for dead, and so he's grown up much like an animal would, in a sense, learning to fend for himself, and he is, you know, often misunderstood by the people around him because he hasn't grown up with that social support that we as human beings take for granted. And so what results is a very...
Rehearsals on stage have now finished. Rehearsals on stage have now finished. Could we please have the crew to the stage? Thank you.
There you can prove that we are actually in the theatre, not just sitting in someone's living room. The rehearsals have finished. But yeah, so I think he's misunderstood by the people around him, but he is a very complicated man, and he falls in love with this beautiful singer, and I think what starts as a love through music develops into a deeper emotional connection, which both characters have a hard time dealing with and hard time expressing, but it is a love story, and I think that's why it endures. Is, you know, everyone loves a love story, and it's the ultimate expression of free will, and ultimately Phantom grants that to Christine at the end. The free will to make her choice, and I think that's why it resonates.
Now, obviously, having played the Phantom kind of 10 years on in Love Never Dies, you're kind of now going back in time to play the Phantom here. How has that been to get your head around?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that I've spoken to the directors about through the process, and I mean, in many respects, the two shows are just completely different shows, and you can just approach them as very different shows. I think my experience living with the character, I can see as only a help, just in terms of having the background and the depth of understanding that existed there. But I think the biggest difference, and the thing that I've had to get my head around the most, is his more adolescent responses to things in the Phantom of the Opera. He is far less developed emotionally than obviously where we pick up in Love Never Dies, and this idea of an adolescent response to things, the way in which he can snap so quickly from one emotion to another, like a teenager would. If they don't get their way, they just, you know, have a tantrum and storm out, or they get angry very quickly, and also his inability to deal with the intimacy that Christine presents is again an adolescent response. It's kind of you don't have the knowledge and the depth of experience to be able to navigate your way through some of those awkward moments.
Yeah.
And what you see through the 2.5 hours in Phantom of the Opera is he's learning how to make decisions and live with the consequences of those decisions, which again is an adolescent.
So come and see Ben Lewis in The Phantom of the Opera here at Her Majesty's Theatre. It is playing until probably the end of time.
It's looking that way.
I will put a link in the description below, as always, to where you can buy tickets to see the show. Also, if you haven't seen Ben in the Australian production of Love Never Dies, it's out on DVD.
Buy the DVD, don't download it.
It's one of the most beautifully shot productions I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's stunning.
It's, you know, if nothing else, it's worth watching just for the way it's been filmed. Yeah, go check it out. Thank you so much for talking to me today. I'll leave you to get ready for your grand entrance.
Yes, so strap the mask on once again.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment for me or Ben, and I will pass them on to him. Thank you very much.
Nice one, thanks Ed.
Bye.